LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. It always takes a while. I've got a big bank of flashing lights behind me that tells me when everything comes live. I've got a funny one to do this afternoon, everyone. My next door neighbor has put their Christmas tree in early and it's fallen over, and he's asked me to go give him a hand. The problem is it's a 30-foot Christmas tree that he's got outside his rather large hand. So if you want to come to Suffolk in the UK to help me put up a fallen Christmas tree, that would be much appreciated. So if Cape Town or Brazil or further up in the UK can give me a hand, that'd be great. Right, everyone, we are now live on Beanstalk Global via the AHDB with this what's going to be a fantastic broadcast with the title of AgriLeadership Gone Global. Different fields, similar challenges, see how success is cultivated in various styles. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get Izak just to give a bit of background to the AHDB and why they're involved in this broadcast. And then Julia is going to tell us all about Nuffield and Nuffield International. And then we'll just run round everyone and get a bit more of a background from as to who everyone is. And then we're just going to have an open conversation. And if you've got questions, please send them in via social media, via Zoom, or via WhatsApp. So let's go over to Izak first, AHDB, and also just give us your connection with Nuffield, because he did something very impressive last week in Belfast, I believe, Izak. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Max. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, great to be here. I'm actually in the AHDB headquarters today, up in Coventry, hence not my normal shed. AHDB, we're the levy-funded body in the UK. AHDB stands for the Agriculture and Horticultural Development Board for the people around the world watching this. We take a levy from farmers, we spend it on research, we spend it on marketing, market intelligence, data analysis, on-farm meetings, and the bit that I do in all of that is something called AgriLeader, looking at leadership and management. So basically anything to do with people, and comes under this program. And what we do here, the Talking Leader series is a part of that, where we get people from inside and outside of the industry to talk about some various relevant parts of leadership of people, but also some agriculture in general. So I think we're up to about 40 now. So do have a look back. So they're all online, and go and see all the weird and wonderful some guests we've had on here. So if you're watching this as a guest, we've had on you one of the wonderful ones. So yes, and that's the AHDB. You mentioned Nuffield, and Julia will do some official introduction of Nuffield. But I was very lucky to do my Nuffield. Have just concluded it last week in Belfast at the Nuffield conference. Did my presentation there, looking at leadership and what that means in the industry. So had an amazing couple of years, and how I met Julia through Nuffield in that. And Wynoma, I know from some our days back in Stellenbosch, which I'm a bit worried to admit how long ago that was. But that's me.
Well done. And Izak is very mercurial at getting some amazing people together, like today. But let's find out about Nuffield. Julia, Nuffield, tell us about Nuffield, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia. I'm currently in my farm here in Brazil. And so Nuffield is a network association that promotes research and personal development by fostering knowledge and leadership in agriculture worldwide. It started in England on the post-Second War, and it's present in several countries nowadays with a network spanning over 30 countries. So if you are in doubt, or if you're researching a specific topic and you just ask someone in our network, and they will contact you with the right person. Each year, Nuffield organizes the Global Agribusiness Agriculture Research Program that typically involves nearly 100 scholars that researches relevant topics for the sector worldwide, and they can exchange what is happening, what is doing right on my farm and what is doing right on the other business, and they can mix and see what works well around the globe.
Well done.
And
I think we're going to make you the ambassador. We're going to make you the global ambassador for Nuffield, if that's okay. And I've already got one question in. Could you tell us the nearest big town to you, please? Because there's some people that want to look on Google Maps as to where you are. So what's the nearest big town near to you, please?
the nearest big town near to me is called Belo Horizonte.
Thank you. And Izak is going to spell that for us.
I can't even spell in any of the languages I said.
Belo Horizonte means beautiful horizon. So
excellent. And Carla, you were just saying earlier before we went live how Nuffield has been so important for you and your business. Do you want to just explain, please?
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. So Julia was saying that Nuffield is a network association and also provides lots of inputs for us to do research. And as a participant of Nuffield International, I had the opportunity to travel around many countries. And during one of these travels, one of our guides asked me why we produce some crops that were very much consumed in Muslim countries, in countries like Lebanon, Israel, I don't know, and I just thought about it and came back to Brazil and started doing some research about it. And we found out that we had many potential to produce crops that we were not used to. And that was my research topic. And now I have one of the main companies that is exporting this type of products like sesame seeds, chia seeds, mung beans, and many types of beans worldwide. So Nuffield opened my mind to many new products that Brazil didn't produce before.
Yeah, Izak, when Carla was telling us that earlier, I've always had the greatest respect for Nuffield, but I didn't realize Nuffield is that international, Izak.
Yeah, yes, and there's sort of different levels, but the beauty of it is there's the overall Nuffield International. So, you know, it's very big in the UK, in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, so now in Brazil. But there's also the wider Nuffield network where, you know, from different countries you can apply and get a scholarship through Nuffield International. So yeah, and we've got it from all over. There's, you know, it's in South Africa and Zimbabwe and Japan and everywhere. Actually, I think some Japan might be coming in as a fully fledged member soon. So yeah, an amazing network, really.
Yeah.
So, which is, you know, we're talking about leadership and stuff like that and today, and the whole idea of collaborating and working together and learning from each other is such an important part of leadership.
Yeah, and the AgriLeadership gone global, but two of us didn't do Nuffield. So let's go over to Cape Town, to Wynoma. What's your connection with this broadcast today, please?
So my connection is Izak. We got to know each other as student leaders in South Africa, and so that's our paths crossed, and sort of we started connecting a little bit over LinkedIn and so forth, and having various conversations. And I overlap in the sense that I consult in agric as well, and that got us talking. And yeah, he's reeled me into this conversation, which is wonderful.
Yeah, well done. And we've always learned with these sort of broadcasts that you can never stop learning, can you? But also if you look to challenge yourself, and if you look to do just as Carla has done. Carla, by the sounds of it, the interaction that you've had with Nuffield has made such a big difference to you and your business, because you're curious, you explored, you spoke to other leaders, and you managed to take that information, that learning, back to create the success that you're now creating. Carla, would that be correct?
Yes, of course. And not only for me and my specific business, but also it impacted a lot on my region and the farmers around me. Because
yes.
And that's the most beautiful thing about Nuffield. Nuffield is not about making benefits for one person. It's making benefits for the system. And producing farming and the farming of the country of origin. So we have this opportunity to go to many places, learning different types of farming, not only in our sector. For example, I am in the grain sector, but we visited farming of dairy, fishing, many types. And when you have this opportunity to see all of these other systems, that when you come back, you can integrate each other. You expand your mind and bring new solutions that were not created before. And that's the nice thing about the Nuffield. So you are exposed to things that normally you wouldn't be, or wouldn't have this opportunity to be in these other types of farms.
Yeah, well done, Julia. I'm just about to hand it over to you, but there's a criticism that one of the UK leading agriculture universities have of its students, that they sometimes get annoyed that their students don't want to go internationally, that they just want to stay in the UK. But then look at the four of yourselves and how much that you've learned by meeting other people and seeing different agricultural practices and how that's benefited you. And Carla, I love what you say about how that's benefited your sector, your community, your colleagues and your networks from everything that you've learned. So we must be curious. So Julia, we're co-hosting this, so I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, just let me make,
go, Carla.
Let me make just a example of how of the impact of this project of alternative crops here in my region. 5 years before, sesame, which is a product that we brought here, was not produced here, and now it has an income for the country of $2 billion more.
Wow!
That wasn't there.
Wow!
All because of you, Carla.
No, not me, of course, because of these new crops that came in.
Yeah.
I was a piece of it.
Yeah. And it takes a team. Julia, over to you.
As you can all see, Nuffield is about people, improving people through agriculture, and improving agriculture through people too, as well. And we nowadays learn a lot about, or hear a lot about leadership, leadership. And Izak, for you, what being a leader mean?
So for me, it is something that I'm very passionate about. Is you don't need a title to be a leader. I think that's something, it's in this old hierarchical system of leaders, and that is I think that's very outdated. It's that whole idea of whatever area you're in a business or in your organization, on your farm, is taking the ownership and leading that area. So I think that's something that we can't shout about enough. It's not about who's got the title or there's a hierarchy. It's about taking ownership of your area and running with that and leading from wherever you are, and up and down the chain. So that's something I think I'm really passionate about.
I see. And hearing a little bit of that, Wynoma, what do you think? So I imagine you dealt with lots of companies, right? And teams, easy and open to accept changes, or hard, or not all of the times. So what were the similarities and the differences from that you came across?
So, and definitely, I think I just want to touch on to what Izak has basically said. I think it's important to define leadership, as he's indicated, that leadership is not only positional, it's non-positional as well. And I also like to think of leadership in a plural sense as well. So when we talk about leaders, we today we're talking about leaders in the sense of that plural sense, acknowledging that leadership is about a collective. So I think one of the things that I experienced when we as you indicated, these differences and the similarities, the similarities of that everybody wants to be successful. People want stability. People want to move forward as an organization. But the challenge to those things, the difference is how people take forward the change, whether they embrace it or whether they are hesitant to embrace the change. So you hear a lot of people will say, listen, we've done this, we've done this like this to work for us, and we're gonna stick with this. Or you have another organization, which is a learning organization, which is willing to say, listen, we're willing to try something. We're willing to work with our people to adapt to the environment as it's changing. And I think that these lessons that is learned out of ones where people say, listen, we've done this like this for years, and we're going to stick with it. There's case studies like Nokia, like the Swiss watch company, where the environment changes, and the danger about not embracing change on some levels is that you can perfect something which becomes irrelevant. And having a perfected product that's irrelevant for your market or irrelevant for the context is not going to take you forward as well. So I think that embracing change and moving, being agile, being able to adapt, it's important. But having said that, it's difficult. Change is difficult.
So can I just jump in here? So tell us about your own change, because when we first met, you were doing your PhD in polymer biochemistry, is that right? And now you're a leadership consultant. So talk us a bit about in your life story, because I think, open to change, that's some story there.
Yeah, thanks, Izak. It was quite a process that I went through. Like you, I got involved with different leadership structures and so as a student, and at the same time, I was busy studying chemistry. And as I got more and more involved, I realized that I really loved working with people, and that while I enjoyed the analytical part of my work in the laboratory, I really missed the people interaction. And I started getting involved more in other projects. Like, for example, I became an intern at the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, really working around deeply divided societies and etc., and peace building and so forth. And at a particular point, I realized that, okay, there's two visions here, and there's a need that I need to make a decision. And at the end of the day, I realized that my passion for this particular work, working with people, making a difference, developing people, was something that I felt more strongly about. And it was a difficult decision whether I would continue with what I studied in a run parallel, or whether I would make the jump. And I decided to make the jump. And yeah, I think I have no regrets about it.
Excellent.
Thanks, Izak.
Go, Julia.
And Carla, more on the business side, the organizational development and strategic planning are two keys for the business to excel, right? So organizational development and strategic planning. As the leader and founder of your business, what actions you took in the beginning that were positive, and looking from now, what actions you wish you had taken earlier?
Well, I'm not a very paper person that do much of planning. Of course, I think about what I want to do, and I I divide in many tasks in different areas that business needs. For example, bureaucracy, operational, managing, and I split on that, and then starting doing the actions I need daily. Because if we look in something you want to do, which is big or looks too long, you don't take action. So that's the way I work. I split in many things, and I don't expect to be perfect, and I don't expect to be very nice in the beginning. I like the term of VPM, the minimum viable product. And I work a lot with that concept. So I start something the way I can with the resources I have. I try not to invest too much, and then I test it, and I start testing. And I do that with the farm, with the new crops I want to implement, and I do that with my commercial business as well, with the products I haven't sold before, and test the market. So I really like this concept of business, because it doesn't require too much thinking and too much planning, of course. And I don't have many regrets of what I've done wrong, because if I have this way of thinking, I put too much pressure on myself, and it causes anxiety and too much blame. And I try to see everything I've done wrong, to see it as a learning process, and try not to make it again, do it again, and that's enough for me. And that keeps me calmer than I cannot do anything about the past. So I just try to take it as a learning and make it better in the next step. So that's nothing I would do differently. I like my path and the history I am making.
Julia, that's a fantastic answer from Carla. Julia, do you think you can learn leadership, or do you just become a certain style of leader from education and from the people around you, or can you be taught leadership? Julia, what do you think?
I think everyone can be a leader. That's a great question, Max. I think everyone can be a leader. You do have to exceed on some characteristics you already have, and then take the responsibility. I think Izak said before that you gotta go and take responsibility for your actions. So either if you have a business or if you don't, anyone can be a leader. Of course, it helps when there are programs that help you develop it. For example, the Nuffield program, other leadership programs as well, that you're gonna focus. Someone will direct you in some way, and that is very important as well. But anyone can be.
Yeah,
I would definitely agree with that, Max. Yes, and it's a learnable skill. I think it's something that is a misconception, and the fact that the saying about people are born leaders. Yes, that there's people who it comes more naturally too, but everybody can become better leaders. I think something else in our society that is there's this idea that I don't know, anybody that's done sort of any of the personality profiling is the reds or the your yellows, those strong personalities make better leaders, and I think that's something we need to challenge. I think that a lot of very good leaders are your more reflective leaders, and being caring about a team. Your blues and your greens make very strong, very effective leaders, and I think that's something we need to develop, and recognize in our organizations, in our structures, on our farms, is that any kind of personality can be a good leader, and we just need to develop some of and where we've got weaknesses, and develop those sides. So yeah, very much agree with Julia there.
Well done, Izak. And what about mentors? In the UK, there's quite a fashion for individuals who are looking to progress their career to have a mentor or mentors. Is that something that you see? Carla, if it's okay to ask you directly, have you got a mentor? Julia, have you got a mentor? Wynoma, have you got a mentor? Carla, you go first.
Well, of course, not directly with this name, but for example, my family has a very big history of leadership in the community, and of course, everywhere we can find leadership examples in our family business, in our community, in our church. It depends on how much you're interested and incentivized. I think leadership is, you can learn about it, but the main thing is environment. So you can catch the way leaders do things. So if you want to be leader, please, you have to be near leaders. Yeah. Otherwise, it's very hard. It's not something that you can read about it and apply. Of course, you can do that, but it's much faster to be together with people and start kind of copying them and getting their way of doing things.
Well said. There's nothing original in life. It's plagiarism. It's just finding an idea and making it better. Why no me? What about yourself? Mentors? Do you think that's a good route for people to go down?
Absolutely. And I have a few. And I think it's valuable. They have experience. They've been there. They know you. They can speak into your life. I usually choose mentors that have the same values as what I have. I think that those are important as well. You need to feel comfortable with somebody that's advising you that you think is that matches your ethics, values, and so forth. I think that is important. But I always say it's why not stand on the shoulders of giants? Why not use those who have been there as springboards for your life? So I find the mentors in my life very valuable.
Excellent. Julia, mentors, what do you think?
I think it's very, if you have the chance, it's a very good thing to do. I do have one, and she's super special. It's been a great journey to be with her. And also other friends, as Carla said, other people in your community. Maybe if you don't know, but you follow on the social media that you admire, and what Wynoma also said, that have similar values. That's very important, and you have to admire that person as well. So I think it's a very good thing to do, to have. I mean,
well, I asked Isaac to be my mentor, but he said I wouldn't be able to afford him.
That's a good point, and actually, so I think we're incredibly lucky, and we don't always recognize the fact in our industry of agriculture and farming how open people are with information and with their time, how generous they are with their time to help people. So I think that's something to recognize. At AHDB, at the AgriLeader program, we looked at and how to develop our leadership programs a couple of years ago, and we worked with the University of Lincoln, a lady called Professor Sharon Green, and she kind of evaluated some from fisheries and from a cement factory, and then some loads of lawyers everywhere looking at their leadership program. And the one common denominator of really good leadership programs, there was an element of mentoring in there. I think is that personalized part of it. So so whatever the program looked like, so what makes it really good is when there is an element of mentoring in there. And I've been very, very lucky. I've got two great mentors, Diana Spellman and John Parries, and there's two, my two mentors, and they've pulled me through some, some difficult times and good times and bad times. So yeah, and listen, I'm very lucky to have two very good mentors, and do it. Just ask somebody. Yeah. Another shout out, so just name dropping, but another Nuffield, Helen Wyman, she set up a business recently, Cultivate Success, which basically match mentors and people based on personality profile. So I know what you were saying about some matchings and same values and things like that. So this is done on a sort of scientific basis of actually matching people. So so what a great way of finding a good mentor.
Yeah, well done. And communication. So let's just assume, well, I'm not going to assume, you four are experts in leadership in your different fields. Communication. Amazon, I forgot this, but I don't know if you've heard of this analogy that Amazon have, that they only have teams, that the teams are only big enough to feed. It's called a 2-pizza team. If the team is too big that 2 pizzas can't feed them, it's too big. So they've always worked on this basis of having small select teams, independent, entrepreneurial, and with flexibility to do what they need, and it's always worked for them. In the UK, there's a very large communications company, BT, and it employs thousands of people. And I met the FD at a university lecture, and he said at this lecture that the biggest problem that they have within their business is communication. That if you've got over 750 employees on multiple sites, let alone on an international basis, culture, communication is so difficult to put across. Communication, and just to top it all, there's There's a very famous businessman in the UK, and when he bought a radio station, he said, I'm going to have an open door policy. Anyone can come in and talk to me. And he found that created such a big problem for him, because on a Monday morning, everyone was coming into his office with their woes of the weekend, of the issues that they were having with friends or family. And he realized that he'd made a bit of a mistake. Communication is so difficult. What's your success to communication, Julia?
Oh, I was gonna ask that for Izak. He actually he's a great communicator.
He is.
And communication.
But you've got to answer. You have to answer.
Communication is fundamental, and it's a hard thing, because many times we think that we pass the message, but the other people didn't understand. So what I've heard once is that communication is when the other one understands the message you passed. That is fundamental. So what's again the specific question, Max?
Communication. You have a large team. How do you communicate with them through the working week, through the working year? Everyone's in different points in their life, in their journey. How do you communicate them to get that team to work with you and work with you for the long term? How do you communicate with your team? I'm
gonna share the way I do here at the farm. We have weekly meetings to see. We have our planning and all the things we had to do, organize it by year, month, by weekly. And then every week we sit and talk and see what has been done and what needs to finalize, and also like an open communication with their adding what they need, what they think it's important. That's very important to pass the message and to try to be clear. This is a challenge for everyone, but trying to talk every day and the weekly to see if it's going well. Yeah, well done. Wynoma, you're in a privileged position of working with some really interesting clients. You must see so many different types of communication. Talk to us about it. Can you give us some examples?
Sure. There's so many aspects of communication challenges which you've highlighted. There's the cultural aspect, there's generational, there's the way we communicate. So people tend to communicate differently. So for example, if you're creative, sometimes people create, they think they create, but they sort of communicate differently. And I find that, for example, because I tend to be sometimes analytical, I think a little bit in systems, and people have told me that I communicate in that particular. Sometimes people don't understand it. So communication is a very big challenge in organizations that are diverse, that are multinational. It really requires work, and I don't know if there's a silver bullet, if one could put it that way, to saying these are the solutions. It's something that needs continual work. The things, though, that one needs to look at is that people don't want an overload of information. So one of the things that you decide is what do you want to communicate and what's critical. But at the same time, people don't want to be left out of the loop. So these are very important. The third thing is how do you communicate? What is the way that you're going to communicate? We find that different generations, or whether it be Generation X, Y, Z, A, or whatever the case may be, prefer communication in different ways. The younger generation preferred electronically, and in the different apps that is available. Where others, the older generation, prefers it a little bit differently, maybe an email, and such and such. So there's all these fantastic apps that people can form little hubs and networks. But some people find it difficult to communicate on these various platforms. Yeah. But lastly, I would just say that effective communication within a big structure is to try and break down the groups, as you've indicated with Amazon. The smaller the group, the better. So to try and break it down, where the organization is sort of functioning in small little hubs. That is sort of the key. But I try to touch on a little bit of things, but it's a complex thing. It depends on the organization, it depends on the structure, depends on whether it's multinational, how effectively you move forward.
Yeah, Carla,
so can I just jump in there, Max?
Go on.
Something quickly. I think listening in there, and this is something that have been very guilty of, and probably still is the listening part of it. Kind of, if once you've communicated something, is to listen to people, check in with them, check their understanding, see how your message have landed. So I think that is a very old cliche, but it's in 2 ears and 1 mouth is there for a reason. And just on the so I think that's very important. The other part of that, when you and Wynoma talk about is the small groups. Something that I never quite realized until or it didn't occur to me. If you go from 5, if you have 5 people in a team, there's 10 relationships to manage. If you go to 7 people, so there's 20 relationships to manage. So just that increase of 2 people, double the amount of relationship that needs to be managed in that team. So so that's quite a revelation. What was to me anyway. That and all of a sudden, all the different dynamics of a relationship or relationships that needs to be managed. Every time you add 1 person to a team, so it's kind of grow exponentially. So that whole idea of small teams is important.
Yeah. Carla, what about when you came back from Nuffield and you had to communicate to all of your team and your family that you wanted to grow sesame seeds? They must have thought you were crazy. How did you communicate that?
Actually not, because we were facing some problems with the crop of corn. And everybody was already facing a big problem of not having good productivity for corn. So they have seen, I haven't started with sesame seeds. I have started with the mung beans. That is a type of beans that was not seen in Brazil. It's not consumed in Brazil. But I brought the whole solution. So let's do this, and I have market for it. But I did help to develop, and I need some investment. But they have seen with good eyes. I am lucky to have a family that is very entrepreneur. And I would say Brazilian farmers are very entrepreneur. We do, when we travel around, we see that we are in the leadership of many innovations. And that's a kind of a mindset. If we don't create our solutions, no one will. So we have many challenges because of distances and because of high costs, logistical especially, and bureaucracy. And we have to reinvent ourselves all the time. So I didn't face that resistance in the beginning. It was very good. And another thing that is interesting in Brazil is because we are large areas of farming. So we have kind of a room for testing. And the Argentinians make a lot of joke with Brazilian farmers, is that, if you, in Brazil, any test you do, it's 100 hectares. Like if we do a test, it's 100 hectares. It will be a whole farm in the UK or in Argentina. But here, because we have large farming, we have more possibilities. So that's an advantage.
Okay, I would have loved to have been in that meeting with your whiteboard and you were saying, we're going to grow monk beans. I would have loved to seen the reaction. And team, how do you keep yourself motivated? We often hear this, that leaders, it can be very lonely. You've got everything on your shoulders. You've got all the pressures of a business financially, all the pressures of communication, all the pressures of the people, weather, politics. So how do you keep yourself motivated, Julia?
Well, just one point before, I think it helps to write down the message about communication. It helps to write down the message, what was passed on the meeting, Motivation, yeah, it's a difficult thing because, as you said, we are in the middle of nowhere with lots of work and have to do it all the time, away from friends, from the family, many times. But I think you gotta love what you're doing. You gotta love what you're doing, and you know that it's a part, and it's you're gonna pass through some hard moments. Other moments will be all right. You have fun. You have to have fun on the way as well. Easy to say, not that easy when you're there, but I think you gotta love what you're doing, or understand for what you are doing that.
Okay. Do you love what you're doing, Julia?
Yes, I do.
There we go. Answered. You put me back in my box. Thank you very, very much. Wynoma, motivation. How do you keep yourself motivated, please?
I'd agree with Julia. I think you got to love what you do. You got to believe that what you're doing, you're doing something special. You're doing something that you believe can make a difference. And I think that keeps you motivated through the tough times.
Yeah, well done. Carla, do you love monk beans?
Not too. I don't produce monk beans.
I know. Carla, motivation. How do you keep yourself motivated, Carla?
Well, I really enjoy seeing the development of markets and the development of crops, and I really enjoy this thing of bringing new opportunities, not only for me, but for the farmers that are partnered with us, and see the results on the community itself. Because, for example, this year, soybean crop was very bad because we have a big drop. And the sesame seeds was the salvation of the income. So the municipality didn't have a big crisis like in years before. So that's really motivating for me, seeing that the work we do, it's helping the economy to be stable.
Yeah, well done. And I have to ask you, do you love what you do?
I do love what they do.
Fantastic. And Izak, I've seen you in action at your AHDB AgriLeader forums. The team, Izak and his colleague Mark run a fantastic conference where they have, help me Izak, 180, 200 farmers coming in who are presented with keynote speakers on very, very similar subjects to what we're talking today about. And Izak, where you're very good is motivating those individuals. You as an individual, do you find that quite easy to motivate people who, especially farmers, who might have all the ills of the world on their shoulders? Izak, do you find it easy to motivate them?
I don't know if I would say it's easy. It's something that I've had to learn and something that I've had to practice and that I do practice. So it's like any skill. So it's not. So I don't think it's not maybe as natural as people think. I do put work into it, but I do enjoy it. Yes, and when people come in at the start of the conference and how they are then when compared to when they leave, and that's and oomph and that energy and that is, yes, of course, from the speakers that we put on some very good speakers. But a big part, and I think even more so, is the community. So, talking to farmers, we always run at lunchtime to lunchtime. So it's a big networking event, and that social part of it as well. So, and speaking to your peers, and like you mentioned, might feel like you come in with a weight on your shoulders. Once that is shared, so and all of a sudden it just feels like you can take on the world again. So, I think there's a big part in that community and sharing it. At AgriLeader, our sort of strapline is leading self, leading people, and leading business, and it's sort of those three legs of the milking stool. And as businesses, as people, as business leaders, very good at leading the business. So the strategic side of the business, the financial side, all of that, and looking down the line. Good at people. Quite often, some successful businesses are good at leading the people. Something where we as an industry are not so good at is that leading self. And I think when you just, the whole concept around motivation and how we look after ourselves, that is something that we definitely can work on as an industry. And, that motivation, kind of finding your why are you doing this? It's hard work and all of the challenge that it comes, but finding your why in that's what gives you your motivation, and finding the things that you enjoy, whether that's cycling or walking or spending time with your family or having a beer with mates, and finding that release and looking after ourselves, leading ourselves and looking after our own health and mental health. I think that's a big part of that motivation.
Well,
I think Izak brought a very important point, that we need to not work all the time, but look to the other side and see something that motivates us in the other thing. Occupy our mental health with some hobbies, that staying with some friends, just to be out a little bit of the business, because most of the times we are there all the time. And another thing Carla said is to divide. I think it was Carla that said that, to divide the challenges, to divide it. So it's, you do one step at a time, and then you're gonna see everything that you planned going out on the way you planned. And about that, on methodological things, I was seeing your website, Wynoma, and you said about appreciative inquiry. That caught my attention, about your methodological approach. Could you tell us a little bit more of that?
Sure, Julia. So in my work, I use different methodological approaches, right? Experiential learning, problem solving, appreciative inquiry, etc. And appreciative inquiry tends to focus on the positive, right? So it will ask questions like, what are success stories? How can we improve on the things that we are doing well? These are the questions that we sort of ask in appreciative inquiry. Where problem-solving approach would be essentially, what are the things that went wrong and how can we solve that? Now, I'll give you an example. Just recently, I submitted a report to a client, and he read it and he was like, Wynoma, is there anything that we're doing right here? And I realized that the report was written in a problem-solving approach. These are the issues, and highlighting how we can solve it. We appreciative inquiry focuses on these are the good stuff as well. These are the successes. These are the things that we're doing well. And so basically, what I'm trying to say is that consultants sometimes need help too. Just a realization as well that organizations, especially when they are working through stuff, they want to hear as well that it's positive. And so I use appreciative inquiry as well to focus, help organizations realize that there are things that they are doing well and these things that they can strengthen. But we choose which methodology to use depending on the project and depending on where the organization is at. But appreciative inquiry I find is a powerful tool to affirm an organization. These are the things that are going well. These are the things that that we can build on, and everything is not lost.
I've got a question for you, Wynoma. What are we doing in the ag industry? Because you work across various industries. In the ag industry, what are we doing well in this sphere of leadership? And what are the things that we can learn from another industry that you think so we can take up from them?
I think one of the things that we're doing well, and I think you've picked it up, is that Agric is exploring all the different technologies. There's a lot of things that our farmers are moving with regard to automation, and this for me is exciting on the one hand because it speaks to a sector and the industry that is willing to look at what technology there is available, what changes there are available, and are willing to make those changes. So I think that is very positive. So I see the sector moving very fast in that particular way. But there are aspects of the sector that where we spoke about change, where people saying this has worked well for us, and this is what we're going to continue doing. And there is a risk sometimes to that. Sometimes there's not a risk in the sense in agri that a foolproof way of doing things can still sustain one. But the question is it efficient? Is there a better way of doing that, and so forth? And the second thing that I think we can do better is I do think that we network very well within the sector. The question is whether we are willing to take the lessons learned from other sectors. So I think that the collaboration, I do think that within the agri sector we collaborate well. We tend to support each other well. We tend to learn from each other very well. But there's also lessons that we can learn from other sectors. And I think that I would like to see a little bit more of that collaboration across industries from the agri side. So yeah, I think that in a nutshell would be sort of my thoughts.
Couldn't agree more. So yes, and we've had, so on Talking Leaders, we've had somebody that helped put people on the moon, haven't we, St. Max? And we've had somebody from NASA. So yeah, so love what you've just said there.
Yeah, we Izak, if you remember, we always use the example of it's called the Dutch diamond. That's in Holland. They have this lovely circle of government, education, and business, that they work in harmony, that they support each other, and that's why Holland has got one of the best horticultural industries in the world, and we don't quite have that in the UK, and I don't know about South Africa, and I don't know about Brazil. But yeah, that collaboration. If there's more collaboration across industry, I think we would be in a better spot. And team, we have a lot of graduates, students from the sector that listen into these broadcasts because they want to learn from you. What would your advice be to those graduates that are going through university or college in the UK, Europe, South America, or Australasia, or Africa? What would your advice be from everything that you've learned in industry as to how they can have a successful career? What is your advice to students for them to have a successful career? Carla?
Be open-minded and take all of the opportunities to learn from others, because we make our learning process much faster when we see what others are doing, and we learn with the people what people are doing wrong and right, and take our own conclusion. But as much as we expose more to other realities, we expand our mind and become more creative and more solution oriented. So I think that's the way I most develop myself doing that.
Well done. We're learning so much today. Julia, what's your advice to those students for them to have a successful career? What's your advice, please?
Well, I think you need a few things. Patience first, humility, knowing that you are in the beginning of it, so have patience and have humility to understand, to learn from the others, even if it's your father, it's your older brother. They are there because they conquered their place there. So those things. And another one is look for internships.
Yes.
Look for internships on the farms, on companies, different things. Do it in the beginning of your university career if you can, because you're gonna learn a lot in practical. And look for also another one, look for development programs, you know?
Yeah. Well done. I'm learning so much today. Wynoma, what's your advice to all those students dialed in, please?
I agree with Colin and Julia. Continue learning, and the one aspect practical. So find places or places where you can intern, where you can learn. The second that we spoke about, mentorship. Allow others to guide you, to advise you, and read, speak to people. So take in as much as what you can, and you will begin to formulate, what you think you are about, what you think is important for you, and that will help you in a sense of making decisions of where you want to go, what does your career path look like, and so forth. So I think as much information that you get, you can learn from as many people as possible. That's really key.
Yeah, well done. If everyone, we're starting to run out of time. Izak, Julia, do you want to wrap up for us as our sort of our nominated ambassadors of the AHDB and Nuffield? Izak, you go first.
Yeah, so on that, and it's just on your final point, is put yourself out there and go and networks, and whether that's an open meeting, conferences, and whatever the local group in your area, put yourself out there so nobody's ever found their dream, since sitting on the sofa. So put yourself out there. Yeah, so what an interesting and it's an amazing afternoon we've had, and getting some of the different perspectives from around the world. So a huge thanks from me. And one of the phrases I think I've coined, and I'm going to claim it anyway, is your comfort zone is your dream cemetery. So put yourself out there. And things that like we've done here today, and put ourselves out there. And go and find your connections, speak to people, connect and learn. And yes, and it's an ongoing process, but it's such an amazing ride we have through life. So enjoy it.
Well done, Julia.
I couldn't agree more with Izak. It's a great opportunity. For example, here, all of those associations, all of these people, they're here today sharing with us. Go follow their social medias, follow who they are following, so you can learn more. Open your head, open your look to the other side, and join also Nuffield socials as well. There are lots of people traveling around and finding different things and sharing on their pages, that you can learn a little bit without traveling. And when it's time, apply for Nuffield as well. Thanks a lot for everyone. Thanks for you guys sharing your time here. Thanks for our guests here and everyone that is watching.
No problem. And just to wrap up, I think this has been a fascinating AgriLeadership gone global broadcast. I think we've learned so much about the different fields, similar challenges. We've all got similar challenges, but we can all learn from each other. And this title of "See How Success is Cultivated in Various Styles." I think if it's okay with our four panelists, that everyone should follow them and learn from them. And we've learned today it's about being curious and watching and listening and networking with key leaders to learn from them. We don't all have the answers, but collectively we might just have. Just to wrap up, I have to ask, what's everyone's fresh produce? So let's ask Cape Town first. What's your fresh produce, please? Your favorite fresh produce?
Mango.
Oh, you've got to love a juicy mango from South Africa. Carla, what? Julia's going to interrupt. Go, Julia.
No, it's mango time here now.
Oh, isn't it? So Julia, is mango your favorite fresh produce?
Well, my favorite fresh produce is jabuticaba, that I think you don't know of, but you should have.
What is it? Come on.
What is it? What's it taste of?
It's a black fruit, small one, with soft and sweet inside. It's delicious.
Is that the one that grows on the trunk of the tree? What's that in Brazil?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, they are great. And I couldn't remember what they were called that. But they weird tree right on the trunk of the tree. These little berries that you break off.
Why don't we? I feel a bit sorry for you. You just went for mango, and then we got something really. Carla, what's your favorite fresh produce, please?
Oh, I like many. I love jabuticaba as well. Berries. Here in Brazil, we have a berry. It's called amora. Very nice.
Oh, we're going around the world on this. This is brilliant.
Yeah, Brazil has many different exotic fruits, and they're very yummy.
Excellent. Izak, wrap up for us. What's your favorite fresh produce? We have to ask you.
Well, it have to be prickly pear, Turksvee, as we call it in South Africa. And growing up with that, and when that was in season, was very good.
Excellent.
What's your favorite one, Max?
Oh, what's my favorite one? Pear, an English pear. It's gorgeous at the right time of year. Julia, thank you for asking. Team, you've been brilliant. We hope to see you in person, but thank you very much for your time today. We've learned so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.